All right, here we go. We're live. How's everyone doing today? Let's get a quick audio visual check, make sure everything's okay. Thank you all for joining in today once again. We're having a 1 minute late. I'm sorry. Let's make sure everything's fine. We made a video earlier today, so if you didn't catch that, then make sure you don't miss the next one, because this live stream is going to be talking about a lot of the stuff that we already went over in the previous video. So thank you to all of you who no echo. Thank you. Glad that it's a little bit better. We're doing 1% improvements every day. Aloha from Hawaii. Welcome from Hawaii. How are you doing today? Thank you to all of you who watched the earlier video. I am experimenting with making some shorter form content now, and hopefully you guys are going to be enjoying that just a little bit more than what we already had going on. Because yeah, I mean, obviously not everybody can sit through a 2-hour live stream. So here we go. I'm ready. I think you guys are all set as well. Thank you all for tuning in. Smash up the likes as you come in if you know that this live stream is going to be absolutely amazing as usual once again. And here's what we have at the chart. What I mentioned to you in the last video is that Bitcoin was finding some resistance at the $50,000 level after finding support at the $46,000 level. So the fact that Bitcoin has actually been able to recover up, test this level is good. The fact that we got rejected here is not good. See, here's the thing. If Bitcoin was going to have the strength to set a new all-time high very soon, I think we really would have done that. It's not like we made a weak attempt at breaking the resistance level. If we zoom in even deeper, even further, to take a deeper look at what actually happened here, Bitcoin tried it not once, not twice, but 3 times. Bitcoin tried to break out over here. Bitcoin tried to break out 3 times right here, and it still couldn't do it. And, you know, if the trend really was bullish, and we really were about to set new all-time highs very soon, you know, like today, tomorrow, whatever, I don't think that we would have gotten these many rejections. So here's what I think is happening. I think that right now the price is being what I'm going to call artificially suppressed until it ends up trading higher once again and potentially breaking out. I don't like looking at these volumes. It looks to me, looking at these chart patterns, it looks to me like somebody was precisely selling Bitcoin at exactly 51,400, roughly around this area, 51,200. It looks like there was one group, one person, whatever, trying to sell Bitcoin at exactly this level, and that's why it couldn't break out and it had to go downwards. That's what I think is happening. And to me, that means that there hasn't been enough accumulation in this range. That's showing me that there hasn't been enough accumulation in this range. And we did end up breaking down. So what I mentioned to you in the last video, thank you all for watching it already, is that if Bitcoin does get rejected from this level, I would expect Bitcoin to fall all the way down here and then potentially trade sideways a little bit, or start breaking it and head down to the $42,000 level. If we find support at 46 and then we test this level again, look, I don't think it's strong resistance, so I wouldn't be surprised if we broke it, but I definitely think that this is some price suppression happening here. This is some organized price action. It doesn't even need to be organized, but this is definitely something that's more than just, random, price action that's happening that you can't really explain. I definitely think that there's an easy way to explain what's happening here, because it doesn't, the market has corrected now. It shouldn't need to, in my opinion, it shouldn't need to drop lower. It would be good if we did, because this would be the strong support area, but we already tried breaking and we couldn't, and I think that this market is healthy enough to break higher. So if we don't, it's just telling me that the whales, the institutions, whatever you want to call them, some people are suppressing the price of Bitcoin and sending it lower. And that tells me that potentially entering a sideways trading range where there are some Bitcoins being accumulated in this range and then it gets shot up would make a lot of sense to me. Funnily enough, this is exactly what I think is happening with gold right now. So I know I don't talk about gold too much, but this is one of the assets that I'm interested in trading. I've traded it already, and on Phemex made a very nice profit, and then unfortunately a controlled loss as well. But right here, I think that gold is in exactly the same thing right now, where it's definitely price suppression, because it has every reason to rise up. Looking at the dollar that in this same time frame has been collapsing. According to this dollar index, if the dollar is collapsing, gold should be rising, and it's not. And you know, you can't tell me that there's some fundamental shift in gold that means that it's just not bullish or sexy anymore. I definitely think that it's just being suppressed. And when these kind of assets, when they get suppressed and they finally blow off, it tends to be pretty damn extreme. Let me see if I can find you an example. I suppose a very, very valid example is was right here when Bitcoin broke above $20,000, because there were, you know, there was similar price action happening right here. If we zoom in onto the 15-minute time frame, we can take a closer look at it. You know, just for research purposes, I suppose. Bitcoin was trading here for quite a while, and it just couldn't break above 20K. And you can see how very clearly, look, it would reach a high, big sell-offs, reach a high, big sell-offs. And actually over here, what I outlined for you guys on the YouTube channel was this, to me, just looked like there were a bunch of sellers that wanted to sell at the previous all-time high, because that's never a bad idea, in my opinion. They just wanted to sell at the previous all-time high. And as soon as that supply got exhausted, the market was able to blow off even, and absolutely rise very, very high. I was very positive about this when I told you about it before, and I definitely think that it's the same case right now. Those of you who are watching the channel back here, shout out to those of you who did subscribe and were liking the videos all the way from the beginning of this breakout. I was pretty vocal about the fact that I was expecting a breakout on this third macro attempt, which is what happened. That's the attempt that we got the big breakout at, and how I was expecting that if we do get the breakout, we probably rise very nicely upwards towards you know, $27,000 was my first target. So obviously it ended up working very well. And when we do have this kind of price suppression, when the real movement of the market is upwards, but for some reason it's being you know, stopped, like grabbed at the throat and just prevented, that definitely is a sign to me that if things do start picking up again, it could get very, very explosive for the market. And that for me is very, very exciting. However, the bearish side of this, unfortunately, is we couldn't break above. And despite how much I think that there's price suppression going on right now, we are definitely in a situation where Bitcoin has failed an easy attempt to rise higher. And, you know, on the surface level, if you're just doing very basic TA, you wouldn't really notice this, but you know, all you would see is that there's a support hit here and a rejection hit here, and now we're trading a little bit lower. But when you dive a little bit deeper into this and you break down what kind of support hit this was and what kind of opportunity Bitcoin had here with 3 separate attempts to break up towards the all-time high, and they still failed, in this market that should have very, very good positive sentiment returning very easily. In my opinion, it should be quite easy for that sentiment to return, and in this market it's not happening. That's a red flag to me. You know, that to me is a sign that the market has had a chance to do something spectacular and it couldn't use it. It couldn't actually make good use of it. And so we go to the title of the video, and you know, there's this sign that's telling me that, you know, that the bear market hasn't ended, this mini crash hasn't really ended yet. To me, look, there's nothing more bearish than fucking up a good opportunity. There is nothing more bearish in the market than screwing up a really good opportunity to rise higher. You know, it shows incompetence. You know, if this happens on a job, and here's one of my terrible analogies that I haven't done too much of recently. If you show up, you know, you're a lawyer, and you show up to work, and you screw up on something really simple, like you don't accept money from a client properly. You know, like, how are you going to do the real stuff? You know what I mean? Like, if it's failing when everything is set up in its favor, it has a really, really good chance to do very well, and it still fails, that's where I start getting concerned. And so if we do start trading sideways, the other thing that it's going to start looking like, ladies and gents, is it's going to start looking like a bearish consolidation pattern to me. It is going to start looking like a bit of a bear flag, and in this market, it's definitely very possible that it could be in a bit of a downtrend, you know, because when we are in downtrends, we will have, you know, the downtrend obviously started from the all-time high at $58,000. We will have small continuation patterns like this rising wedge over here. You guys, you always hear me talk about this classic staircase pattern where we fight the trend briefly and then we continue it afterwards. You know, sometimes we have short kind of periods that send the market lower, and other times it does take a little bit longer. Other times it might take some days, you know, until the market does finally make its move down. But in any case, I don't think we're going lower than $42,000 purely because there's so much support at the 42K range. I've already covered why there's a lot of support in the previous 1 or 2 live streams. However, if you'd like me to repeat it, please let me know in the comment section today. I do have more time today. It is midnight here in Dubai, so I'd prefer to go off after an hour or so, but Depending on how fun this stream is and how many questions you have, I will definitely be taking them. So let me know if you want me to repeat that for those of you who haven't maybe tuned into the previous live stream. Thank you all for joining, by the way. We're up to 1,000 viewers. Let's smash up those likes as you're coming in. If you found this useful at all already, then please do smash up the likes. It's only been about 10 minutes and hopefully I've calmed you down a little bit. Broadly speaking, I think that this trend is still very, very bullish, and it just needs to finish this correction and then carry on trading higher, because each time we trade higher, we are kind of moving closer to that euphoria stage. But every time we correct, we are kind of bringing things back into balance. And what's very important about this, actually, in my opinion, is that by correcting, it starts looking a little bit more reasonable that Bitcoin can keep setting new all-time highs. Because if it does just have a staircase to heaven pattern like this and it keeps going up forever, it's not going to be respected or taken seriously. And that's exactly why Bitcoin previously... do we have connection issues? Someone's asking, am I still here? Let me know if there's any connection issues here. But, that's why, at the end of the 2017 bull market, the price crashed massively, and that's purely because it was rising up too much. But when we get these good retracements, that's when actually you are still in a pretty good opportunity, in my opinion, to still keep seeing the market rise higher. And I definitely, as I've been saying for a while, I don't see any stop to this rally anytime soon, purely because this market has only broken the previous all-time high 2 months ago. So just over 2 months ago now, we broke the previous all-time high 2 months and 1 week, actually. And for that reason, these kind of bull markets, they can go on for like a year afterwards, and so I think there's so much time left for this to continue trading upwards. Obviously, it would make complete sense if Bitcoin were to enter, like another even multi-month bear market. I think would be pretty okay. But for now, I think that Bitcoin definitely, it's had enough consolidation. It could continue to make some really nice moves before some big correction happens in the market. And that's why, some of you guys are asking me to repeat this. No one's saying don't repeat it. So, the thing about the $42,000 range is I see it as almost a magnetic zone for the price action. I don't know if we're going to get there because we're actually quite far away from it right now. But especially if we start teasing the 46K level and we just kind of trade sideways, instead of if we, hit 46 and then pump, that would be good. But if we just trade here and then trade sideways, that to me would be a sign that actually we're not finding much support here. And if we're not finding much support, the price has to drop lower. And so, and that's a very, very important concept. I'll just explain this to you really quickly if you don't already know. But if the price does start hugging this kind of price level, that would mean that no major buyers have stepped in to send the price spiking higher. And if there are no buyers and the default movement is down, like the previous movement is down, and the mini trend is downwards as well, and you still don't have any buyer support, that is usually a sign that the price is going to start tumbling a little bit lower again. And there are a lot of examples of this. It's actually easier to show you these examples to the upside where it's in reverse. Let me see if I can find you a good example, something very, very obvious. Right here, I think is a good example, this massive $24,000 kind of consolidation range we had. What we had with the price action right here, ladies and gents, was that the Bitcoin price kept getting pumped higher, and we stabilized at this level, which was a psychological resistance area, $24,000. It was 20% above 20K. So it makes sense that there was some resistance at this level. And the fact that bears did not step into the market to send the price lower. I mean, the best the bears did was, from this high down to this low, minus 10%. It's nothing, for a consolidation range, it's fine. The fact that the bears didn't step in and take control of the market, and the fact that the previous move was upwards, and the fact that the whole trend before this was strongly upwards, these all played a big part in Bitcoin being able to take its next leg up very, very quickly, purely because no sellers stepped in. And if there were no sellers and there's only buyers, what's going to happen to the price? It's obvious. It's not even rocket science. It's not complicated at all. And so I think that definitely makes the chances of Bitcoin rising up when it's not finding resistance very, very high. But equally, it works in reverse, because when we trade at a support level for too long and there's no more buyer support coming in, right here, then that's where we get these dumps. And it's even more powerful in a bearish trend, which we are in right now. So this is where, a lot of the time, one guy would say, oh, well, if we fall to 46, I think we'll find support. And then I'll say, actually, if we fall to 46, I want to see how we fall there, and I want to see what we do from there. Do we immediately bounce back up, or do we trade sideways here and show signs of indecision? Because if that's the case, I definitely think we're dumping lower. You know, we didn't actually spend much time in this range before, and that's telling me if we do this time, then no buyers are stepping in. How can I be bullish about that? That's actually quite concerning. Thank you all for tuning in today. Club mentioning you've just arrived. Thank you for tuning in. So if you are kind of a little bit late to the live stream, then make sure you just rewind this and watch it from the beginning so that you don't miss anything. Let's try and keep the chat to English because I can't read Russian yet. I'm learning, but I can't read Russian yet. So that would be cool. And if you are enjoying this video so far, if you found some of these explanations useful already, then again, make sure to hit up the likes and subscribe if you haven't already as well. Devin saying that this is too stressful. We're going to talk about the fact that it's too stressful for you in a minute, bro. It's actually, it doesn't need to be. I keep talking about this, but I've had a super busy day with people in my personal life, and I didn't even look at the charts much at all. At all, you know, like I was just refreshing the price on my phone, I don't know, like every hour, and that was it. You know, like this thing doesn't need to be stressful. Bitcoin is still more than 2 times above its previous all-time high. So we're in a pretty good spot right now. I think the market still looks super healthy. I want to talk about the $42,000 range and why I think it's so important, because I do think that if we do end up kind of dropping down to this range, it could just be a quick kind of pump that looks exactly like this. This is exactly what I showed you earlier today in the video that came out earlier today. So if you did watch it, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But the reason that I think Bitcoin can pull something off like this if we reach $42,000 is because I think and I expect that $42,000 can be a very strong bounce zone for Bitcoin. The reason that I think it can be a very strong bounce zone is that it was the previous all-time high that Bitcoin set on the 8th of January. And this all-time high triggered a bear market that lasted 19 days, and that crashed the market down by about 30%. So as far as time frames go, trending downwards for 19 days in a bull market is rare. Okay, I need to put this into perspective for you. So let me switch over to the Gemini chart. And actually, I don't need the drawings on this chart anymore, so I love it when I get to delete the drawings because it means I can start drawing things fresh again. But what we have right here in this trend, let's just break it down. Let's break it down into its core aspects. I know it looks a little bit confusing if you're new to the markets, but this is going to make complete sense to you in a minute. We have phases where the market is trending upwards, phases where it's trending sideways, upwards, sideways, upwards, downwards slightly, but you can't even tell, so I'm just going to count this all as upwards. And then a phase where we trend downwards. Throughout the entire market since $10,000, Bitcoin has not been in a downtrend until this point. Very important to keep in mind. There was no prolonged downtrend. Look, Bitcoin might have trended downwards for a couple of days over here, for a couple of days over here, but you can barely even see it. You can't even make it out because, honestly speaking, these were not big retracements. They didn't last a long time as far as time frames go. So to get something like this, where Bitcoin is trending downwards for 19 days, is significant. This is a big deal. And it doesn't happen often because the default price action in a market like this is moving on upwards. And so the fact that we've already had one, I don't think we're getting into it again. I think it's too soon to enter another one. You know, we only broke out of this bear market. We only set a new all-time high after this bear market. You know, after 31 days, look, we set the all-time high 31 days. For 31 days, we didn't set a new all-time high, then it took 31 days to break it. And from that point, Bitcoin was only rallying up for 13 days. So if we know that the default price action in a bull market is upwards, because it is, and it's undeniable, if we know that, but we've only been trending upwards for 13 days, and our last consolidation was 19 days, I think that tells me, our last pullback, I'm sorry, was 19 days long. I think that tells me this trend still has a lot of juice. And that, to me, is a very significant point for why I don't think we're entering a bear market right now. I don't think that this price action is going to dip very low for a long time or cut much deeper, purely because we already had that very recently. This was very recent. This was, in fact, this month we were still in this. So I definitely think that there's a lot of potential for this to recover up pretty quickly. But it also solidifies why the $42,000 range is so important, because it was at this all-time high precisely that we triggered such a serious bear market. Because like I said, it's not normal to trend downwards in a market like this. And if the level at 42K is what started this downtrend, I think that means that it's very technically and psychologically charged as a potential resistance area. Super, super important to keep in mind. I think that's very, very important, and it's absolutely unavoidable. Very, very important to keep in mind. And so, number one, it triggers a long-term price retracement, but number two, it also triggers a big percentage retracement. So out of this entire trend, since Bitcoin started trending up from the $10,000 level, the biggest Bitcoin retracement it had, look, this is minus 17%. This is minus 20%. The biggest one Bitcoin had was right here, which was minus 31%. So not only did the $42,000 level instigate a long-term correction, it also instigated a deep correction. And that's a powerful combination. So that really tells us a lot about why this $42,000 level is so important, in my opinion. And hopefully it goes some ways to explain why I think that a potential bounce off this level would make a lot of sense. And to be clear, it doesn't need to be at exactly $42,000. I'm expecting that the support level can stretch all the way down to something like $40,000. So let me draw that for you. This box would now look something a little bit like this, where I'm expecting support for Bitcoin stretching between the lines on this box. In fact, I can draw another blue line right here to make this super clear. This is the range that I'm expecting Bitcoin to find a little bit of support in. And if it does, I think that would make a lot of sense. Again, I'm not saying that I think it can happen, like, that we're going to be trading here for a long time, but literally to trade sideways, let's look at this from a perspective of pain, because these markets, we already know this, these markets tend to try and achieve maximum pain for the most amount of people, the most amount of pain for the most amount of people, and then they rise up higher. We all know how it is. We were the idiot where we sold Bitcoin at very, very low levels, and then Bitcoin shot up. Maximum pain. And so if we really put it into perspective, and we consider that a lot of traders in this market are new, including a lot of you guys who are new to the market, so welcome. This is going to absolutely ruin your life. Or it's going to make your life. But what we have is, a little bit of a downtrend, and then we start trading sideways, which is going to make people lose a little bit of confidence in the trend because it's boring, right? We need to keep this in mind. This is very, very important. People who joined the market at like any point above $20,000, they joined it with a fear of missing out. Okay, it's undeniable. They didn't join it based off good technicals. It was a fear of missing out. If it wasn't a fear of missing out, they would have bought Bitcoin earlier, because nobody buying Bitcoin now is hearing of it for the first time. They're buying it because they have a fear of missing out. And so those people, they get very, very tense when the price doesn't trade up. Very important to keep in mind. When the price is not trading upwards, people who are buying Bitcoin for what I would call the wrong reasons, fear of missing out, psychological reasons, whatever, they're buying it because they don't want to miss out on the trend and they want upward price action. So if they're not getting it, this is going to make them really tense. This is like a kid with ADHD that has nothing to do, nothing to fidget with, whatever. It's just going to make them very, very agitative. And so you do that and you break them down with time, right? You break these traders down, you make them feel like shit over time. And then you get a flash crash downwards. And this is what really shakes that confidence. This is what really, really kills it, because you're already trending down from the all-time high. Now you're staying down. So it looks like the prospects for a recovery are not strong. It looks like the prospects for a recovery are not strong. And then you actually dump lower too. And when you get that, it's like, okay, damn, it's confirmation. This thing is dead. It's going to die. It's going to drop. I don't want to hold it anymore. And that's where you achieve maximum pain a lot of the time. And that's exactly where Bitcoin then, in my opinion, has a very, very good chance at rising higher, because this is where a lot of people will be taking on their short positions. They'll be betting that Bitcoin is going to trade down. They're going to have to start covering those positions. They're going to have to start closing them, buying Bitcoin back up to close a short position, for example, various different things like that. There are going to be a lot of factors at play. And at most, I think one of the biggest ones will actually be that very smart money, I would expect, is going to start buying at these levels. I've even considered buying at these levels, although I've already explained why I might not trade this. I don't know. The reason I might not trade this is because I don't like relying on smart people to do smart things, because I don't like relying on people. It's not good. So I definitely think that smart money will come in here, but I'm not putting my money behind my mouth yet. Sorry, where my mouth is yet. I might do that a little bit later. So that's my stance right there. I think that because of those reasons, the fact that this 42k level instigated a big downtrend with time and a big downtrend with price action, this is a very important level, and I think that's going to make it very historically, technically, and psychologically charged. And so that's where we tend to see big reversals. We tend to see big reversals at very charged levels on the chart. I'm going to see if I can find you some good examples now quickly to kind of prove this point just a little bit more. And I'm going to use the previous downtrend. So I think I've already found one example. They're very easy to find, to be honest. Yeah, I've found one right here. This was the previous all-time high for Bitcoin at $2,900. It instigated a big downtrend with time. This downtrend lasted 30 to 40 days. Let me actually check it. This downtrend lasted 35 days, and it was 54 days until we broke the all-time high. So that's a long time to not break the all-time high in an uptrend, especially when you're breaking the all-time high every day. If you don't break it for 54 days, that's a bloody long time. So it instigates a big time frame kind of downtrend where we don't set a new all-time high, and the price drops by a lot. If we calculate it from high to low, you guys already know if you're a regular subscriber, regular viewer of this channel, because I cover this analogy a lot because it's super relevant to the market right now. Bitcoin dropped by 40%. In our most recent one, Bitcoin dropped by 31%. So these are quite similar percentage retracements, and it keeps the market down for a long time. And I think that's exactly why this level was so psychologically and technically charged, to the point where when Bitcoin topped out at 5k, which was a very, very scary level at the time, that's what enabled Bitcoin to drop only down to the previous all-time high. And because this all-time high was such an important resistance level, in my opinion, it turned out to be a very, very strong support level. So I think that's absolutely essential to keep an eye on. And obviously from there, Bitcoin trended up very, very nicely up to the $20,000 level. The rest, as they say, was history. So I'll start going through your questions in just a minute. I'm really enjoying this live stream. Hope you guys are too. Please smash up the likes if this stuff makes sense to you, if you're enjoying these explanations. Thank you. Great explanation skills. I'm glad you like them. I'm really, really glad you guys are enjoying it. I feel like I'm explaining it pretty well today. So that's great. And from here, yeah, it looks like, again, a little bit too early to start drawing conclusions, but it definitely looks like we are headed back down to that 46k level. So I don't like to make premature conclusions. I need to see how the price drops there, but I definitely think that, yeah, there's a good chance of Bitcoin potentially falling down to this level. Am I in a trade right now? Nope. Tell me about a bull target. So as for targets that I have, I don't actually have targets for the price action for Bitcoin. The main target I have is, first we got to breach the 52k level. If we breach the 52k level, which I think should be quite easy, you know, like if we get back up to this level, I think it should be quite easy. If we breach the 52k level, I think we'll go right to the all-time high. And if we breach the all-time high, I think we're going to pass the all-time high on the first try. I wouldn't be surprised, because I don't think that there's actually a lot of resistance up at this level. And if there's not a lot of resistance, I think that makes that gives it a lot of space for the price action to just kind of blow straight through it. And we've seen this before. We know exactly how this was. I mean, look at the 42k range. Look right here. It was a very, very scary level. We got rejected at it once. Second time, we just blew straight through it. And this was a strong resistance area, you know, in my opinion. So I think that, you know, with a slightly weaker resistance area, you know, the big level is cleared. It's $50,000. Like, shit, like, it doesn't get much scarier than 50k. I mean, you know, 20k, 50k, 100k. These are the big scary numbers in my head. Maybe 75, maybe any round number that ends in, you know, a few zeros. But broadly speaking, I'm not actually too worried when, you know, when Bitcoin starts trading towards like 60k, and I don't think many other people will be. So I think Bitcoin will fly right past this. And you know, if you want to target beyond that, it's actually quite hard for me to say, because to be honest, we're going to be in price discovery mode, and the only thing I can bank on for resistance is that we hit psychological areas. And if we hit psychological areas, I mean, what does that look like? Well, 60k is another potential psychological target. 65, 70, any round number is obviously a psychological target for the price action. And that's, I think, where we start seeing sell-offs. So you could draw fib extensions, although I don't know how to use them well, so I'm not going to do that. You know, there's a lot of different options you have, but I'm not so sure about you know, what exact targets I could give you for this. Ethereum analysis, I will get to Ethereum in a minute. Let's see what other questions we have here. Thank you for dropping your questions, and as usual, make sure you tag me in the comments so that I actually see your questions. Tag me with the @FORFLIES button, and if you are, sorry, @FORFLIES, saying this stuff on repeat now, tag me with @FORFLIES in the comments, and that way your comment gets highlighted as orange for me. It's very easy to see. Thank you all for tuning in today. We're up to 1100 viewers. Please smash up the likes if you're enjoying this so far, if you're finding it useful at all. Always very, very helpful for me. If these videos are helpful for you, then that click goes a long way for me as well. And Oliver, your voice is calming, very bullish. Thank you very much. What is my Ichimoku cloud setup? I'll show you that in a minute as well. And actually, I think I can start showing you some of the support, because similar to what I already covered for you, there's still some really good support on this chart. If we look at the daily chart right here, the Ichimoku support is far away. It's actually quite far away. It's if you want my settings, it's right here, 20, 60, 120, 30. It's quite far away. This support is only going to be relevant next month and at the end of the month. So I wouldn't bank on this. If Bitcoin did end up crashing right through the floor down to $30,000, this is the only other bounce zone I see. Maybe some bounce zones at 35k, something like that. But if we fall below 42, I think we might go down to 30. And there's a lot of support at 30. So I would definitely expect that Bitcoin can bounce from there. I'm curious what kind of percentage retracement this would be. This is a minus 48%. So that's pretty deep. I don't think Bitcoin's going to drop by like minus 40% right here. I don't know. I mean, if it does, it would be quite unpredictable, obviously. But you know, the Ichimoku is right here. I don't think it's so relevant right now because it's very far away, but the daily EMA ribbon is relevant in my opinion, and it's showing us that we have support right here where we are right now, and this support does stretch all the way down to $40,500. So this is exactly in line with the green box that I just drew for you. Look at how beautifully this lines up right here. The daily EMA ribbon showing us that it exactly, I mean, this is super precise. This is impressive. Look at that. You know, Bitcoin definitely having a lot of momentum with this daily EMA ribbon to potentially rise up, and I don't need to show you why it's so reliable again. I mean, I've already gone on a lot about that, but if you are curious to learn a little bit more about this indicator, you can watch my tutorial on how to use the AMA ribbon by typing this into the YouTube search bar. So open a new tab, type this into the YouTube search bar, and watch it after this live stream, and then come back here, pause the video, and then come back here and watch this analysis again, and you will see why this is so impressive. So I definitely think that there's a lot of momentum supporting Bitcoin upwards right now, and that to me is always you know, I don't even know how to say it. It's beauty to my eyes, I suppose. It's not music to my ears because I'm seeing it. It's absolutely beautiful, and I think it makes it very, very safe. So you know, that's what, you know, what we have right now is a confluence. We have multiple indicators, multiple different signs telling us that we might be able to expect support at the same level. And if that's the case, you know, with my horizontal lines, with my box, with my EMA ribbon, with the fact that this was a previous all-time high, the fact that there's a Fibonacci retracement, which is very significant here, which, you know, I can't ignore. Let's draw this Fibonacci retracement, and you'll see right here, bam, 0.618 level lines up perfectly. It really couldn't be better than this. 0.618 level lines up perfectly with the bottom line that I have right here. So down to $40,500 is a big bounce zone, and I don't need to talk too much about why the Fibonacci is so important in my opinion, but you know what, I'm gonna do it anyway, because if you haven't seen this before, it's gonna blow your mind. There is just so many instances in this market where the market retraces down exactly to the 0.618 Fibonacci level and no lower. Take a look at this right here, bam, market retraces exactly down to the 0.618 level, just a little bit lower actually, and then it retraces on upwards. I think I can also draw something similar. I forgot where to draw this from. So from here, it still bounces off a Fibonacci level. 0.5 Fibonacci level is where Bitcoin bounces off from right here, which is again still a very significant Fibonacci level. And we can play this forward, and we can actually see a lot more instances where when the market enters a bear market, it starts trending very low. Let's see if there's a Fibonacci level right here, maybe the 382 level where Bitcoin bounces off. Okay, this one's 0.5 as well. Look right here, from this low where the trend starts trending upwards again to the high, we fall down to the 0.5 retracement level. It happens all the time. It's super predictable actually, once you know what to look for. There's a few examples back here actually which I can show you. Again, just to prove how reliable this tool is. I mean, it works so well in bull markets. It's honestly like, I don't know how this tool is free. I've made a lot of money looking at this tool alone. Probably should draw this down a little bit more to make it fair. We bounce off the 0.5 level again, 618 level over here. So there's just so much confluence happening at these levels. The 618 level is definitely the most significant one in my opinion, and to see again that it lines up with the same